Hello everyone, I am going to show you how to make a classic Chinese American dish called tomato beef, and it's sort of just one of those quintessential Chinese American dishes. So let's get started, and I will show you some of the ingredients we have. So we have, of course, tomatoes, nice fresh tomatoes. I've got some green bell pepper. I have some onion, some cloves of garlic and ginger root. Sorry, those are out of the scope of the video. And then I have, of course, the beef. This is some ribeye steak that I had, which I sliced and I marinated with some cornstarch, Chinese Shaoxing wine, a little bit of light soy sauce and dark soy sauce, and you can add other things as you wish, but that's kind of like the basic way you would marinate the beef. So let's start by breaking down some of the veggies, and I think we can do with just one tomato here. And we just cut it into eighths, I think would be the best way to do it. I like to take the core out, and you can use other tomatoes if you have Roma tomatoes or whatever tomatoes you have in the garden. Of course, this isn't the time of the year for that, so these I bought from the store. They're hothouse tomatoes. And if you don't like the seeds, you can remove the seeds or keep the seeds. I'm just going to keep the seeds in this case, so we'll cut it into about 8 pieces here. Nice chunk. Maybe this one could be a third. So there we go with the tomatoes. And here's some green bell pepper. It's just a little part that I had left. So just go like that. So discard pile here. Okay, and then the onion, we don't need too much. Just gonna go like that or so. And it. Okay, here we go. And this is one of those dishes that was probably not originally eaten in China, but Chinese immigrants to the United States created this dish. Today we're going to be eating it with rice. A lot of times in a lot of the Chinese restaurants, you'll see something called tomato beef chow mein. It's a tomato beef over noodles, and that's another way that some people like to eat it. But today we're just going to have it with rice. Let's clear aside some of the excess stuff there. So see, we have onions, we have our green bell peppers, and we have tomato. And then I'm going to just finely slice this ginger root and garlic. Press it down and the small dices here. Okay, now we're ready to start our dish. You can see we have a frying pan prepared here. I'll bring this up just a little bit. And turn on the heat. Start with high heat in Chinese cooking, and we're going to put just a little bit of oil in the frying pan. And swirl that around. And we'll want to get that nice and hot first. And the first thing we want to put in the pan are the garlic and ginger. That gets kind of the flavor going, as it were. And the oil is hot. We can put in the beef. And we just want to get a nice browning on the beef. We don't want to overcook the beef. Now I did say I'm using ribeye. I got some ribeye steak very cheap, so I use that. But Chinese people tend to use the cut for stir fries that they like is the flank steak. And so you can use flank steak. I also like to use flat iron steak, but just something that will stay nice and tender. But the process of coating the meat with the cornstarch contributes to keeping it tender. It's a process called velveting, and that's how we Chinese keep the meat tender. If you've ever been to a Chinese restaurant and you've noticed, wow, the meat stays tender. Sometimes another trick is they put a little bit of baking soda in the meat to tenderize it, but this is ribeye, we don't need to do it. So this is very fast. You see how nicely done, easily done it is. Then we're going to add our onions into the pan. Okay, going to add our onions. And we're going to add bell pepper. And you probably could have used a little more bell pepper if you like, but this is what I had. Now, there's a lot of variations on this dish. I'm showing you this is how we make it. Some people like to put some, I've seen people put black bean, so you can make tomato beef with black bean. You can make tomato beef and add some curry as well. But here we're going to just add it's a little bit of a sweeter flavor. So this is how I learned how to make it, basically. My uncle is a very good cook, and he kind of showed me, and this is my rough approximation. Doesn't come out exactly nearly as good as what he makes, but we go. So we want to get the onions and green peppers not necessarily soft, but just cooked down just a little bit. And once you see the onions getting a little bit translucent, we can add the chicken broth here. Add some chicken broth. You can add just water if you want. I like to add some chicken broth. We also add some ketchup. You can add tomato sauce or ketchup. And just a little bit of rice vinegar. That's kind of the secret here, okay? Rice vinegar. And then, one of the things we have to do is make what's called a cornstarch slurry. That's a little bit of cornstarch mixed with a little bit of water. This is what will thicken up our base after it cooks a little bit. So let the onions and everything cook a little bit, ketchup, everything meld together. And I also like to add a little bit of sugar. That's what makes this dish good. Just a little bit here of sugar. It has to. You need a little something to counteract vinegar, okay? And we have to adjust a little bit. Okay. So Now that this sauce is up and boiling, it's thickened a little bit. I'm going to give it just a little taste to check the seasoning. And it tastes pretty good. A little bit heavy on the vinegar. I'm going to put just a little bit more of the sugar in this here to counteract, okay? And then we're going to add the beef back. Add the beef back. And we're going to add our tomatoes, as you could see. Add the tomatoes. And I'm just going to let that come together a little bit. And flip it around a little bit. Okay, now just see how the sauce is doing, and it's pretty thick because the beef already had some cornstarch in it, but could add just a little bit of the cornstarch slurry to finish things off. We'll give it that nice glossy finish. Okay. And just a little bit more. And I like the tomatoes a little bit more whole, so it's not cooked too much. Some people like the tomatoes almost cooked to a paste, so that's your preference as well. Okay, so there you have it. That's your tomato beef, okay? Gonna spoon some out. Some sauce, a piece of meat. Okay, so there's your tomato beef over. Okay, so we're gonna taste the dish. We have the beef and tomato beef, which we prepared. Very good. As I said, today we're eating it over white rice, but you can also cook it with chow mein. So there you have it, tomato beef, a classic Chinese American dish, and I hope you'll tune in for future videos. Thank you.